Welcome back to my bookshelf. As you may know, I have been unpacking books left and right. I think I've done well over 10 of these unboxing videos where I have books that have been in storage and in my garage for years and years and years. And I am just opening them up to see what is inside. And I think we're getting close to the end. I am not sure, but I have a few more boxes I want to go through today with you. Who am I? I am the BookTube goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. So let's see how many of these boxes we can get through. First one is a medium-sized box, and I've already cracked it open to make sure they are science fiction and fantasy books and not something else. And first up, we have Anne McCaffrey's Damia's Children. Now, I believe this may be the Crystal Singer series. If you've ever read it, it is decidedly a science fiction series, but everything about Anne McCaffrey seems to have sort of this fantasy feel to it because I believe the Crystal Singer series has a lot of like telepathy type of technology. Next up, we have Mysteries of the Worm by Robert Bloch. Yes, the Robert Bloch who wrote Psycho. Robert Bloch was actually a huge fan of the Cthulhu mythos, and I believe this is a collection of short stories that he wrote inspired by Cthulhu and Lovecraft and all that cosmic horror stuff. Next up, we have Egypt by John Crowley. I believe this was recommended by my uncle since he knew I liked fantasy a lot. This is what is known as literary fantasy. It is a contemporary, and like a lot of literary fiction, it just has sort of that surreal quality to it. I'm thinking of Maguire's Oz series, that type of thing, only this is set in the modern contemporary day. Next we have Garth Nix, Aborson. I believe this is part of the Sabriel sequel. This is, I believe, considered middle grade. The print is, actually it's pretty tiny, so I thought it would be bigger print than that. But love Garth Nix, excellent writer, excellent series. Next up we have, okay, this must have been a gift to me. I don't remember getting it. Monty Python's Flying Circus, the complete book, I guess. Oh, this is interesting. It looks like scripts of the Flying Circus. So I guess if you want to recreate any of the skits, you can find it here. Next we have, I love this series, Garth Nix, the Keys to the Kingdom series. I believe there are 7 books, each with a day of the week. This is Superior Saturday. I really wanted to read them and I got them all in hardback, which I usually don't do, especially for middle grade. Wonderful portal fantasy. Next we have another middle grade series. It's called the Wind on Fire Trilogy. This is a box set. Very interesting, intriguing, sort of dystopian series. Middle grade, not young adult, but it's very whimsical, but yet creepy. Next we have Kirsten Britton's Green Rider, one of my favorite series, very readable. It's about a young woman with magic powers. Sound familiar? But she becomes a Green Rider, which are these mystic type rangers that protect the kingdom. Highly, highly recommend. Great world building in this one. Next we have Robert Heinlein, The Past Through Tomorrow. Now this is a collection of his early short stories, and I don't care, I still like Robert Heinlein. I know he's not very popular now, And admittedly, I haven't read him in a while, but he was one of my favorite authors growing up. And one of the reasons why I don't want to reread his works is because I just want to keep those memories I have of when I first read his novels and was so in love with his storytelling. Next we have, Lev Grossman, The Magicians. You may have seen this on the Sci-Fi Channel, or I think it's on Netflix now. It's a televised series that I thought was pretty good, but the books are even better. Again, this is kind of literary fantasy. It's contemporary, and it pretty much takes the Chronicles of Narnia and brings it forward to the modern day and gives it a very, very dark twist. So, love this series, The Magicians, Lev Grossman. Next we have Storm Constantine, The Wrath of Will and Pleasure. This is part of her second series based on her Rathru series, which I strongly recommend. The first trilogy, gay goth punk vibes to it, but I also enjoyed the later writing too. Next we have Litany of the Long Sun by Gene Wolfe, the first half of the book of The Long Sun. My favorite Gene Wolfe series by far. Highly recommend it. And look at that gorgeous, gorgeous cover. A book wrapped in paper. I think this is that old book that I got from my father that's falling apart. Yeah, this is a very old, maybe well over 100 years. But I try not to open it too much because I know it is falling apart. Look at there's like tissues in it. Oops. And I just broke it again. Don't worry, the cover was already off. Yeah, this is Recollections and Private Memoirs of Washington, talking George Washington, and this was printed in 1880. So I do keep it wrapped up, but I don't believe it's worth any money or not much, but it is kind of nice to have such an old book. Yeah, okay, I have two more Garth Nix books of The Keys to the Kingdom. Again, there's 7 books, each for a day of the week. We have Grim Tuesday and Lady Friday. These are very fast reads. Again, they're middle grade, but if you can pick them up, find them in a library or used bookstore, I would highly recommend. They're a little expensive, in my opinion, to buy new for the time it takes to read them, which is a day, if a day. Next we have Christopher Paolini's Eldest, another of the Aragon series. Again, I thought these were decent middle grade or young adult, I think they're middle grade novels written by a guy who started writing it when he was 16 years old, Christopher Paolini. Really an incredible story, and they're decent books. Now, if you read a lot of fantasy, you may think, and you'd be right, that they retread a lot of ground that a lot of authors have already covered, but still a fun read. Next we have the second half of the book of The Long Sun, Epiphany of the Long Sun, companion to Litany of the Long Sun. I can't tell you how much I love these science fiction novels. I believe I consider Gene Wolfe a literary science fiction writer, so you're in for a treat if you like beautiful prose. We have Roald Dahl's Matilda. I love Roald Dahl books. He wasn't a very nice man, but he wrote classic, wonderful children's books, including Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And we have Ursula K. Le Guin's Gifts. This is her middle grade novel, which is about kids with superpowers that are, I believe, hunted down. Really good series. Now, I prefer her adult novels more than her middle grade, but if you're an Ursula K. Le Guin fan, you may want to check it out. And we have Brian Lumley's The Source. Brian Lumley, I believe I've picked his books up before, but he is highly inspired by Lovecraft. And this Necroscope series, there are a ton of books in this series, and there are vampire novels, but they are colored and inspired by Lovecraft's cosmic horror. And we have a large box, so I think we'll just get through this one and call it for the day. Okay, first up is a copy of the Dragon Riders of Pern. This no longer has a cover on it. It covers the first 3 novels, I believe. Yes, it covers Dragonflight, Dragon Quest, and the White Dragon. Honestly, I think you can skip Dragonflight and Dragon Quest, which were written as serials in some of the pulp magazines. The White Dragon, however, the 3rd book, is my favorite in the series, and it is it was written as a standalone novel, so a much better reading experience in my opinion. Next we have Children of the Sky by Vernor Vinge. This may be a sequel to Fire Upon the Deep. Vernor Vinge is a wonderful science fiction author. I believe even though this is called a sequel to Fire Upon the Deep, which I highly recommend if you're into science fiction, this takes the same world building of that novel, but it's on a different planet, so it's not quite a sequel in my opinion, but a decent, good science fiction read. Not as good as Fire Upon the Deep, but well done anyway. Next we have, Stephen Law's The Worm. This is a horror book recommended to me by the author and booktuber or YouTuber, author-tuber, I don't know, but Edward Lorne, or E, as he calls himself. I didn't really like the ending. I liked the build-up. I had some issues with the ending, but he recommends this novel as a horror writer and horror aficionado, and if you are, you might like it too. But if you do read it, let me know what you think of the ending. Next up, Dark Ladies Chosen by Gail Martin. I honestly don't remember reading this, as many of these books I've read decades ago in some cases, and I don't quite remember it, but it has an interesting cover. We have a graphic novel, Extinction Agenda by the X-Men. And if you didn't know, yes, I am into comic books as well. We have another big one, The Complete Oz. Yes, I wanted a collection of all the Oz books, and here they are in one compendium. Next up is Robin Hobb's Royal Assassin. Did I unbox this before? Maybe I did, I don't know. But I have so many Robin Hobb books, and if you don't know, I am a huge fan of the Elderlings saga, which is comprised of, I believe, 5 trilogies. One of them may be a quadrilogy. Highly recommend this universe. Next up is Russell Kirkpatrick, In the Earth Abides the Flame. I vaguely remember this cover, and I vaguely remember not being too impressed by this book, but again, it's one of them that I have little memory of. So take that for what you will. Next we have Raymond Feist, Rage of a Demon King. I believe this is in the Rift War saga. Ooh, I like the illustrated inset. He wrote The Magician, which I believe was the first of the series set in his universe of Krondor. And yes, if you played video games with Krondor in it, that's all Raymond Feist. Next up, we have Bridge of Souls by Fiona McIntosh. I recognize the name, an author I like. I don't remember this book in particular, but I believe this is, yes, it's book 3 of The Quickening, so it's a fantasy series. Next we have another Raymond Feist. I believe this is in that series that we just saw again in the Rift War universe. Next up is Steven Erikson, Memories of Ice, Tale of Malazan. And I have several of these books, 5, 6 maybe. I could not continue with the series, it beat me. But my opinion is, at least the first 3 books, I believe, are a epic fantasy masterpiece. And for me, the series just got too dense and I couldn't go on with it. You can see how thick this book is. They get even bigger. Next we have, Philip Pullman, The Amber Spyglass. And this is his Dark Materials, nice inset paperback. Now I recall getting this because it was shelved in the adult section of a bookstore in the Castro in San Francisco. So that's how I got hooked into this middle grade series. Next we have Tellin by Holly Lyle. Holly Lyle is a mid-list author. She hasn't had anything break out, but she is such a talented writer. And if you're into fantasy, strongly suggest you check her out. And we have a couple more graphic novels. Promethea Book 4. A friend of mine, maybe I borrowed this and need to give it back, but a friend of mine recommended this to me, and it is a very interesting sort of mystical story by Alan Moore. And if you know anything about him, he does like to base some of his works in occult philosophy or metaphysical philosophy. And we have Drew Hayes' Poison Elves. Next we have The Illustrated Wizard of Oz. This is the first of the Recluse novels. I know I've talked about this before. Ellie Modesitt Jr., The Magic of Recluse. Highly recommend this book if you like fantasy, but it has a twist. It's not about good versus evil, it's about order versus chaos, and well worth your time. Next we have Farmer in the Sky by Robert Heinlein. And I remember I picked this up for a readathon because I found this lying on the street. And this novel was written as a serial for the Boy Scouts when they had a magazine back in the 50s. I like the story a lot. It is still stuck in a mindset of the division between men and women, that women should stay at home and raise kids and men should have a job, but if you can get past that, a good story. Next we have Kurt Vonnegut, The Sirens of Titan. Now, if you are one of those people that don't consider Vonnegut a science fiction writer, he is definitely a science fiction writer, and read Sirens of Titan and find out why. Next we have Gregory Maguire, Out of Oz. I think I lost the jacket to this, but the covers are these baked covers with really nice illustrations. And if you've seen the play, it is totally different from the play, a whole different experience. But if you're into literary fantasy, you can't go wrong with the Wicked series. Next we have, I don't think I ever finished this, David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. This is kind of America's Ulysses. Very dense book to get through, but David Foster Wallace took his life, died very young, but it's considered one of the great writers of the modern age. Next we have Little Me. Little Me by Patrick Dennis. It's sort of a spoof of an older actress telling her memoirs. Her name is Belle Poitrain. This was created into a theatrical musical play, which first opened, I believe, with Sid Caesar. But if you like Auntie Mame, you are going to love Little Me. But this is kind of an odd book because there's very little writing, but there are lots and lots and lots of pictures and illustrations. It is so much fun. Don't get this on a Kindle, get a physical copy. Next we have The Druid of Shannara by Terry Brooks. This is in the Shannara universe. I like Shannara. I like his other books, Magic Kingdom, For Sale, Sold, better, the Landover series, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the Shannara Chronicles. Here we have a Mercedes Lackey's Bedlam's Bard written with Ellen Guan. Big fan of Mercedes Lackey. Very easy to read fantasy. And if you are into young adult, Mercedes Lackey is a good bridge to get into adult fantasy if you are interested. Next we have Robert Silverberg, Hot Sky at Midnight. Love the name of the title, love the cover, don't remember anything about this. My favorite Silverberg is Lord Valentine's Castle. He is a classic science fiction author. Here we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And you will notice this is a library book, but I didn't get it at a library. I didn't steal it from a library. I got it at a used bookstore. If you don't know, this is a tome. This is very, very long to read. The chapters are long, the writing is dense, but it is a surreal experience to read. And she's recently released another book called Piranesi, which is much more bizarre, much faster to read. But if you want to know where Susanna Clarke got her claim to fame, you got to check out Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Okay, I saw this book earlier, but I was just letting it go to the bottom of the box because I wanted to pick it out last because it's kind of special. This little tiny book was a gift to me from my grandparents when I was very, very young. And to my government name from his ever-loving grandma and grandpa. Isn't that cute? But the illustrations, I remember seeing this as a child or carrying it around as a child because I loved these little beautiful color illustrations that are just so cute. Okay, I'll hold one up so you can see. And even though this is basically a picture book because there's only one or two little lines per page, it made you feel like you got an adult book because it was hardback, it was small like a paperback. So I thought this would be a nice little fun nostalgic book to end with. If you like these unboxing videos, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now I am not done with these unboxings. I have a few more boxes to get through. I may take a break from it because I've been doing so many of these. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or want to read any of these books or have questions about any of these books, and I'll be happy to answer. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.